Hey there, I'm Sarita, and you're about to experience the modern approach to well-being where you get to establish the best and most important relationship you will ever have, the one with yourself. I'm on a mission to help you declutter energy and reclaim your power so you can be a magnet to what you desire. If you're looking for the optimal blend of mindset and healing, you're in the right place. My goal in this podcast is to share tools, resources, and practices that will help you along your healing journey. I'm so excited to be here with you today, so welcome to Back to Here with Sarita. Let's get started. Hello and welcome back to another episode of Back to Here with Sarita. I'm super excited you're here with me today. I have an amazing guest. I'm just going to jump right in and introduce her. This is Alara Sage, and Alara Sage is an intuitively gifted mentor, womb shaman, and Shakti activator who coaches provocatively and soulfully. And she helps change makers and trailblazers embody their wealth consciousness, create genius and visionary potential. And Alara Sage is also the host of the Wealth Embodiment podcast. And she believes that we are here to live a wealthy and abundant, alive life. Alara, thank you so much for being here. So excited.
Yay. Thank you, Sarita. I'm so happy to be here. I know this is going to be a delicious conversation.
Yes, it is. I absolutely love talking about all things that you actually love talking about yourself. And I have this year, I've declared that all of the podcast episodes, when I have guests on them, are focusing around abundance. So when I found you, this is perfect. So 2024 numerology added up is the number 8, which is infinity. So that is why I've created these abundance chats. And I know there's some things that we want to get into right away when it comes to abundance. One of the things you were sharing with me, and that I'm absolutely very, very excited to share with my audience, because I'm actually talking a lot more around money mindset, and also around not just abundance within your life, but also when it comes to wealth. And I love that you're all about that and embodiment. So before we get into the actual topic discussion, which we're going to talk about using quantum mechanics to create your reality, which the science behind manifestation is I want to bring that more to the masses, because I feel like so many people don't really know about that. They think it's such a woo-woo. Before we get into that, let me find out from you just a little journey of how you got into what you are talking about and embody and practice and all the things today.
Yes. So I have been blessed to have the skill of creating what I desire my whole life. Even as a kid, I had people say to me, how do you do it? You just get what you want. And
Love
not
it.
through manipulation, but through just my creation. And honestly, for a large part of my life, I didn't know how I did it. I just set my intention and things transpired and I made it happen. And then in 2020, I had the business that I have today, a 6-figure business, and I was doing wonderfully. And then I had a message come through from higher self saying that, well, the first was a question, if I wanted to clear out some karmic debt. And I was like, absolutely. I'm all for the evolution of ourselves at a higher level. And it turns out it was a very big debt. And what happened was when I said yes, higher self actually told me that all of my money was going to be stolen. And honestly,
wow.
Sarita, it was okay, but I didn't really know how it was going to happen, what it would look like. I kind of just let it go, because it was just kind of such a strange intuitive hit. And then 2 weeks later, on a lunar eclipse, it was stolen. And right away, I moved through the energy of fear and kind of the first initial trigger. And then I thought, you know what? I've got this, right? I always create what I desire. I've got this. So I set about doing all the things that I do, and it went the opposite direction. Instead of recreating my wealth, my six-figure business collapsed.
Oh,
And I went
wow.
into the red, and I went into debt for the first time in my life. And my partner had to support me for the first time in my life. I had a lot of firsts. And
Mm-hmm.
what I was shown was some deeper subconscious beliefs that I held around power, around sexual energy, which is our creative life force energy, and around money. And I had to really transform those limiting beliefs to recreate the wealth that I have now.
Wow, well, number one, what a amazing download to have, like that your intuitive hit that came through. And so you were somewhat like, I mean, how prepared can you be for something so drastic? But
Yeah.
that is that's huge, going through really starting over again. I resonate with that super deeply because my journey around the same time is very similar.
Mm.
2021 is when I left my 8-year relationship, started over, filed bankruptcy, went through the whole thing. I've been building myself up back since. So I deeply empathize and resonate with your story because it's a challenge. But so for you, because you were saying like the creative energy, right? And I want to get more into that because I think a lot of people don't realize this is something that I just learned recently about your sacral, I believe sacral chakra, right? Is like where the creative energy is, and how creation is very sexual and sexual energy is very creative. So we'll get into that in a second because I think that's such a fascinating topic to talk about. But when you were saying how there are so many things in your past experience that came very like easily, energetically, how did you, or what are some of the things that you did after you've had to start from ground zero, right? And you've had this experience of being able to create and manifest the things without too much like resistance, right? Like, how did you translate that experience that you had before into, okay, now I'm literally starting over again?
Yeah. First, I had to like kind of get aware of what was happening because I had so much conviction, and then it didn't go that way. It took me a moment to kind of, oh, okay, this is really happening. Like my business is really
Mm-hmm.
crashing. And then when I came to that, resolution in myself, I immediately started asking myself, what is this here for me? What is it trying to teach me? What
Yes.
is it trying to show me? Because I firmly believe that these experiences, particularly when they're so big, so dramatic, they are here to transform us very powerfully. And so I started contemplating, asking those questions, of course, asking my higher self. And that's where I started to really see my core wounding around power, sexual energy, and money, that I really did not have the awareness of it. I think money, I had, some level of awareness that I still held with subconscious beliefs, but I was creating it. I had it. So I got to ignore those subconscious beliefs.
Mm-hmm.
So it was definitely first and foremost, okay, what am I needing to see? And, that was quite a journey in the understanding of those are really our core wounds of humanity, is what higher self. And I'm also, very connected to the mother. And she was teaching me power is a hard one for us. We've been disempowered, we've been overpowered by others. So we struggle with owning our power, right? Some people say fearing our power, but to me, it feels a lot of times like we're really scared to bring on that power and hurt others or use it in a negative way. Get out of control, right? Like be the person who's disempowering or overpowering others. Like we don't want to be those people. And with sexual energy, I went into all different parallel lives where I was a sex slave, where, I had been raped. I had had so much pain in my sexual energy. One instant in particular, I was working in my cervix for a couple of weeks, and I was really connected to this life where I was in a harem for like a ruler of some sort. He felt Greek. And, you know, it was like, if I want to survive, if I want to eat, if I want to survive, I need to give up sex. And it wasn't just that, like I was good at it in that life. So it was also like, oh, if I'm better at this and I, you know, beat out the other women, right? Like I get treated better, like I get luxuries, I get things, right? So there was this really distorted expression. Well, my mother in this life was in that life with me. She wasn't my mother. She was just another woman. She was actually my best friend in the harem. And as I was in my cervix doing this for a couple of weeks, I get this phone call from my father. And he says, I have something to tell you. And I'm like, yeah, what? And he says, your mother has been diagnosed with cervical cancer. And I didn't even know she was sick because it's a very aggressive cancer. So it came on within like a month and a half. And I was like, oh my gosh, I know exactly why this is happening. And so I say that because there's so much intricacy to this work. And she's in remission now. And then, you know, about money, not just about money, but about wealth and about holding capacity, right? Holding capacity of our creative life force energy, holding capacity of money and wealth.
Yes. I love that. Wow. What a process to go through to be able to like be in touch with and access parallel experiences that you've had in past lifetimes. Like I've done that before. I've accessed that through like breath work, and most recently I did combo medicine. So that was an amazing way to be able to access that stuff. Apologize if y'all hear, I have cats are in the background, so they're a little noisy. But one of the things that you were saying that I want to touch a little bit more on that was so amazing is the part when you were talking about like power specifically. I was going to say for me, one of the things that I experienced, just kind of taking the whole power and not really wanting to hurt other people in that we don't maybe speak up, or we don't access our power, we don't touch base with our power because we are utilizing the experience to try to get some sort of validation from somebody else in order to feel empowered. That's been an experience that I've had. Just wanted to share that. But for you, the whole like sex and power accessing and going through like that process, which is so amazing. And by the way, with your mother, I'm happy to hear she's in remission and doing better. With that experience, what are some of the ways, because I'm sure people are thinking like, how the heck did Alara even, excuse me, like access those parts of you like with previous experiences like that and those things? Just a little sidebar for people that are listening. My understanding is that these are experiences maybe our soul has gone through, even our DNA has gone through and things like that. So it makes an imprint on our system and our blueprint, and it creates like these previous experiences create a process that gets to be released. So for you, what were some of the ways in which you were able to access that? Because I know people would be really interested in knowing that.
Yeah, it's something I've definitely cultivated, you know, the connection to my higher self, which is a version of ourself that is overseeing our reality and supporting us and always there to guide us, always there to help us understand how to create our desires. Our human mind is not supposed to know how. That is really up to our higher self, who has like a bird's eye view, so to speak, of our physical reality and everything that we're capable of. And, you know, I've cultivated that. And I cultivated it, you know, I've always been intuitive, but I cultivated my psychic skills. I cultivated my ability to connect to higher self, to understand what's my mind and what's my higher self. They feel very differently. And, you know, cultivating that relationship, right? Where I can ask anything and I can have the answer. You know, higher self becomes like your best buddy of life because
Yes.
it's you. So you really are your best buddy, and really can support you through your life. You know, you don't have to do this alone. So there are many different ways that I cultivated that relationship. But yes, I did the work. I practiced that relationship. I think it is very vital to cultivating wealth in what I call the new era of wealth, which is wealth that is sustainable, wealth that feels good, wealth that is created from our genius, our aliveness, and thus nurtures us, right? Rather than the old paradigm where wealth is creating money, trying to create wealth is much more grinding, taking, consuming, exhausting. So in this new paradigm of wealth that I believe that we're in already now and is going to really unfold in the years to come, having that connection to higher self is the foundation of it.
Yes, I fully agree with that. And I've been talking about that recently, this old paradigm of manifesting versus a new paradigm of manifesting, which is exactly what you're talking about with the wealth consciousness, the newer wealth consciousness. Our world is very rapidly changing, even in the last like 5 some years. On top of that, astrologically, I know that Pluto has been in Capricorn for a while, and it was in Aquarius. Now it's back in Capricorn for a little bit until the 19th, and then it goes back into Aquarius, which really emphasizes this individualism and this need for exactly what you're talking about, for accessing and really having a better relationship with our higher self, with our own power. So I would love to transition that into getting back into like the sexual energy, because I know that probably has piqued some people's interest. And I know this is something that I've recently learned about, I would say in the last like couple years. I've been following a lot of people that are in like tantric study and learning how to utilize things like pleasure and orgasms and things like that to help expand myself, expand my receiving muscle, expand, my higher self muscle, all the things. And so I've learned that yes, our creative energy is very sexual because it takes creativity. It takes the creative part of our bodies to create life, which is amazing. And when someone broke it down like that, I was like, oh, okay. So that makes a little bit more sense. I would love for you to talk a little bit more about creativity and our sacred sexuality and how those are intertwined, and when we are in a creation mode, like what that kind of looks like for somebody that's really accessing that power in themselves.
Such a delicious conversation. It's one of
I
my
know, I
favorite
love it.
conversations, actually.
Yay.
And it's something I help my clients with because I find, in all honesty, most humans they're not embodied beyond their heart. And even healers, even, coaches and people who are working in the side of spirituality, they're often not embodied past their solar plexus. And, this happened to me again through my higher self. I would go into meditation and higher self would be sacral, sacral, sacral. And this went on for years. I kept going, heart, question mark, pineal, question mark, the other chakras, question mark. And not to say I didn't work in those other chakras, because of course I did. But again, the understanding of how much distortion we have there, right? And if you think about just the conversation of sex, okay, how much distortion we have there where we haven't really felt safe as a society to talk about it, right? To be vulnerable, to be authentic, to even, it wasn't that long ago that it wasn't okay to have it before marriage. And even on Bridgerton, the show Bridgerton, right? They were talking about how for women, sex was for the man. Like it was his pleasure. She was there for his pleasure. I mean, if you think about that, that was not very long ago. And so understanding that we've had this in our ancestral energies, right, which gets passed through our genetics. And we, at the same time, just what you said about sexual energy is creative life force energy. What higher self was telling me was if you look at the world, sex is everywhere. Everything is sexual. Of course, in nature, there is constant creative life force energy. Even in asexual reproduction, there is still creative life force energy, right? There's constant reproduction, constant destruction and creation, destruction and creation. But if you look at life and how we move about life, it's masculine. We penetrate life through our action. That's our masculine aspect. That is how we are bringing in the masculine energy of sexuality. And then we are receiving from those actions. So we are action, penetrating, receiving over and over and over again. So everything is sexual. And understanding that our creative life force energy, not creativity, because creativity is kind of a subset of creative life force energy. You know, creativity is like art and drawing and creating images and, you know, creating programs. But your pure creative life force energy just exists within you. It's pure potentiality. You can turn it into anything and everything. And I always like to say that you have creative life force energy. Kundalini Shakti is another way of terming it. And all Kundalini Shakti is sexual. Excuse me, the way around. All sexual energy is Shakti. All sexual energy is creative life force energy. But not all creative life force energy is sexual. So when we understand the power, I mean, like, just think about women. We can literally take ethereal energy and bring it into physical form. That is magic. That is
very much
the epitome of magic, right? So when we understand that power that we hold in our wombs, and men hold it in their haras, and understanding that actually the truth of it is, for humans, there are 3 creator centers: your sacral, hara, womb, heart, and third eye. And when those all 3 are activated, humans have the capacity to create entire universes. That is who we are.
That's mind-blowing to think about. I'm sure my conscious brain, my human brain, can't even like wrap around the possibility of that.
No, it just sounds cool, right? But our brains are like, whatever that means.
Exactly. Oh my goodness.
But when we understand that opening up to pleasure, right? Opening up to receiving, opening up to even just the real sensation of our sexual energy, the arousal. Like, I teach a lot about getting aroused for life. You know, letting yourself be aroused in your business, letting yourself be aroused in your career, like the literal sensations of arousal in your body, because that's very magnetic. And, you know, we all know the after sex glow, right? Don't we want that all the time?
That's juicy. Yes. Yes to that. Love that. Love that. And, you know, just to kind of go back to what you were saying, how I want to say it was back in like the early 1900s. I know studies were being done about women and their orgasms, and just being so perplexed. Like, there's really no scientific explanation for a woman's orgasm, really, other than pleasure. For a man, obviously, that it's to create life, you know, have that. But for a woman, I think there was such a mystery, has been such a mystery for that, at least in the science. And you're so right. It wasn't that long ago that women just were not able to express their sensuality and sexuality. Even nowadays, I mean, it's still a taboo in some certain ethnic, ethnic upbringings. It's still very considered. I mean, I grew up in the 80s and the 90s, and it was still very considered like, you know, you're asking for the wrong thing if you're going to be expressing yourself in that way. Don't dress like that. Don't sit like that, all the things. And I love one of the things you said about how we do navigate life in a very masculine way, by penetrating it, coming forth to it, taking action. Those are very like masculine type qualities. Of course, we've been very socialized to be in a masculine world. We're in a patriarchal setting, and so it's been fascinating to really undo all the learning that I've been subjected with, and a lot of people in that sense. When it comes to somebody that is, because you were saying, even with like people that are light workers and doing work that that are similar to me and you, or been in spaces and stuff. And you were saying how they're just connected almost like halfway to the body. When you have somebody that comes to you with some of these symptoms, what are some of the things that you know, support them with in being able to touch and get in touch more with the um, you were saying the sacral, the heart, and like the third eye, really getting a lot more in tune with that. I'm sure there's symptoms that you see like that they are disconnected from that. But what are some ways in which you know, you support them in being able to get a little bit more disconnect or connected, excuse me.
Yeah, absolutely. Definitely through the awareness of the body and through breath. I've had several women come to me who, were struggling to create wealth. They were struggling in their businesses. And it's so ironic because when we look at the relationship to their sexual pleasure, some of those women can orgasm easily. One in particular could not orgasm at all. But even if you can orgasm easily, there is so much more than just an orgasm. There is so much depth, I would say, in the female orgasm, there's no sides, ceiling, or floor to how much we can orgasm and the multidimensional experience of our orgasm. So with these women, teaching them how to breathe into their bodies, how to reconnect to that pleasure, how to give themselves permission for pleasure. And some of my women, it's hilarious because, again, some of them orgasm very easily. But then when we go into really giving yourself permission to have pleasure, not for necessarily orgasm, just pleasure, they just immediately come up against walls of like, oh, I don't have time for this. Oh, I should be doing other things. Oh my gosh, like, who am I to give myself pleasure every single day? Immediately those subconscious beliefs around, hey, you know what? You get to live your life in pleasure. You get to have that aliveness running through your body, that pulsing of your creative life force energy. They come up against that. So we work through the limiting beliefs and deep subconscious limiting beliefs to start to cultivate that reconnection back with their yoni, back with their womb, right, back with the sensations. Because when we turn on our sexual power, when we turn on our power, our creative life force energy, a lot of times our nervous system can't handle it, particularly those who have been in a dysregulated nervous system, which is like the majority of humanity. So we work to regulate the nervous system. And, it's a process. Like, you can't just blow yourself open. I mean, you can, but it's going to be extremely uncomfortable. I've been blown open several times. It's very, very uncomfortable. There's no need to do it like that. So it's the process of reconnecting to your body, learning how to listen, feel that energy, move your body with that energy, of course, cultivating higher self relationship as well, but really about seeing those subconscious beliefs and how to move through them, right? And so these women have really shifted out of, even the ones who were like, no, I orgasm easily. Wow, like their aliveness just turned on, right? This is where they are finding themselves once again passionate about life, like having intuitive hits like, oh my God, I want to create a school. Like, where is this coming from? I feel so lit. I've never felt like this before. Another client of mine, she always was kind of like, what do I want to do? She was in corporate and she tried to start her own business. Like, she just wasn't sure. And as we opened this up, she just nailed it. She nailed what lit her up. And we all want that because that passion is what is the creative life force energy. It's what allows us in quantum mechanics to continue to show up when we hit those challenges, when we hit those limiting beliefs.
Mm-hmm. I love that. And that you utilize practices that help them uncover those subconscious beliefs that are stored in the body way down, that they most likely wouldn't find out if they weren't doing like embodiment practices and nervous system regulation practices. I love that, being able to access that. One of the things you were saying that really landed with me was how there are some women, even though they're able to simply find sexual pleasure with via orgasm, yet have a barrier or resistance to actually accessing pleasure on a more deeper level or more expanded level. That resonates with me deeply because, and this kind of goes back to the whole accessing the power thing, realizing that we have this power, but also not permitting ourselves to go there fully. Like I realized that was something that really came forth when I did a spiritual journey just this past weekend doing combo. Frog medicine was that one of the things that really was brought forth was this level of grief that I never allowed myself to fully experience. It was something that was stored in my body deep, 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 deep down. And I was in a very primal state of grief. And I realized after coming out of it and reflecting after my medicine journey that I never permitted myself to go there, even in solitude. I would be in my room, I would cry, but I would just not allow myself to go like really, really deep in like the grief and the sadness and all the things that were being held. So that really like stood out to me when you said that, where it just, and it's this permissionary thing that I guess we've as women just not allowed ourselves to go to, probably social conditioning as well, like a lot of different factors that have brought us to that place. And when it comes to like the quantum, you know, kind of tying in the quantum mechanics and bringing that in, can you expand on that a little bit more? What that specifically means, kind of bringing things all together, I should say, like all the things that we've talked about with like the embodiment and the sexual energy and the creativity, like how does that all kind of come full circle when it comes to the quantum mechanics you were just mentioning?
Yeah, so quantum creation, quantum mechanics is the ability to tap into other versions of ourself because
Yes.
in this life as this human being, there are infinite timelines, which is again one of those things that the
Right.
mind is like, huh, that sounds interesting.
How is that
So
possible?
there's infinite, yeah,
Yeah.
literally infinite versions of you. And so when you think
Mm-hmm.
of something that you feel very strongly to create, that version of you already exists in this quantum field of information. And so with quantum mechanics, it is about first and foremost really getting to give ourselves permission about what is lighting us up, what do we really want, which is a lot of that permission and opening up those energies that we just spoke about. And then you get these very passionate, clear hits that are just, oh my gosh, I want to create this so badly. And the beauty of that is then you can, that's your intention, right? And living intentionally, creating intentionally is my number one. Like you have to have, in my book, an intention to what you're creating. Otherwise, you're just splattering paint onto the canvas of your life, and who knows what it's going to look like. It's totally random. And we don't have to live randomly, right? We can live intentionally. We can create what we desire. So that first intention, and then you can use your ability to tap into that version of yourself. You go in, just quiet your mind, drop into your heart, and really ask to be shown, what is this version of me? What do I look like? How does my life show up? How do I feel in that reality? It's very easy for everybody to do this. I don't find that people have any issue doing this whatsoever, no matter their connection to their higher self or intuition. And what you want to do is you want to connect as many different senses as you can, because when you do that, you're literally activating your physical body in the vibration of that version of you, what I call your desired vibratory state. Okay, so there's the version of you that exists right now and the version of you that you want to become, and you have different vibrational signatures. So you're activating your whole body in this vibrational signature. Now, if you're connected to your creative life force energy and you're vibrating, you continue to activate yourself in the desired vibratory state, you're going to start having clear intuitive hits of what action you need to take in order to become that version of you. And so action starts to become from a place of embodiment, from a place of I am this next level version of me, rather than, gee, I want that. How do I get there? Right? Which is very mental and analytical. The embodiment is, okay, I'm activating myself in this frequency. I feel this to be true. I know this is possible. What action do I need to take? And all of the information shows up to you, your habits, your patterns, your behaviors that you're doing now that you might have to let go of, and what habits, patterns, and behaviors does this new version of you hold, right? Because that's our personality. That's all of our identity. You want to become that version of you. So you recreating your habits, your patterns, you're taking action from this desired vibratory state through that aliveness of your creative life force energy, through that passion that you feel about creating it, as well as the ability to receive along the way, right? As it starts to unfold, receiving it with deep gratitude, with deep appreciation, with joy. And you can, create miracles, magic. This isn't just out of the box. It sounds great. It's absolutely possible. It's absolutely possible to become any version of yourself that you desire. You just have to know the steps. And yeah, you have to be consistent. That's where a lot of people kind of like do it and then they drop off because they're not seeing results. But the final step of quantum creation is how you're perceiving your reality. And this step, a lot of people don't do. And what this means is, yeah, you are working to create the next level you, next version of you. But what is happening in your physical reality now was already created. So it's not going to, hey, I put myself into vibratory state. Okay, now I'm absolutely 100% experiencing that. We're not there yet in the dimension of existence that we're in. It's not instantaneous. Some manifestations absolutely can be instantaneous. It's not impossible. But most of the time it takes, there's a time gap. And so in that time when you are working to create these new habits, these new patterns, identify, recreate yourself, you are still experiencing the old version of you coming through the physical reality, coming through what I like to call the house of mirrors, that is the holographic reality. And so the trick there is to perceive all of that, not from the old version of you, which most people do, and they go, see, it's not working, or there's that again, right? Or I don't want this. So they drop back out into the old version of themselves, and now they've continued to validate that. You have to perceive your reality from the version of you that you want to become. So how would he, she, they react to whatever's showing up for you? And it'll be very different. The reaction will be different. The perception will be different. It's important to understand that how we perceive our reality is literally how we experience it.
Yes.
So the power of perception is that final step in quantum creation that really allows for powerful collapsing of time and you really stepping more and more into that new version of you.
I love that. Thank you so much for that explanation. It was really beautiful. And I was with you every step of the way because I love telling and sharing, I should say, and guiding my audience through the exact same process. That's I call it something a little different, manifestation steps. And that is to create a desired reality. And just to go back to like the different timelines, like when I started learning about that, read the holographic universe and like started watching some YouTube videos and kind of starting to plant these seeds in my brain, understanding that yes, there is a version of me already living the life that I really want. And then there are other versions of me based on decisions that I like decided. And, another version of Sarita that has like kids and is married and all the things. And it's just amazing to acknowledge that it's my experience that I'm experiencing right now is because of I'm creating it literally as I go, right? Because there's another version of me somewhere else having another different reality. And I love what you said around becoming an embodiment. That's the last step that I share in my 3 steps to manifest is the implementation for a long-lasting success, which AKA is embodiment, right? And that, yes, there are some beautiful abilities to manifest very quickly and to have a manifestation come through very quickly. And then also, at times, it does take our reality a little bit of time to catch up with what is actually happening in our internal state, right? So it's like the internal state shift. And I can raise my hand and say I've definitely been one of those people where I have started to create a new reality for myself, but there's this lingering, it's kind of this overlapping time where there's this lingering time of me where I'm kind of like, but it's just kind of easier to be my old self. It's easier to fall into the habits and the things that, without changing and molding. But then the desire is still there very much to transform and create a new reality. And sometimes one of the things that some people don't really talk about is a level of, I wouldn't even say grief, but just kind of like letting go of a past version of yourself, letting go of that and just allowing it to not just even like dissipate, but just acknowledge it, appreciate it, thank it, thank yourself for bringing you to where you are now and being able to transform into that new desired state of reality. I love that. And there was one more question that I had along that. So really tying that back into the embodiment practices that you do and the sacredness of learning how to be more in your body. It sounds like with those types of practices, with those types of embodiment practices and experiences, that it actually helps you and assists you in the process of not only getting clear on the desired reality, but also becoming that version of yourself that already has the thing or life or experience that you desire to have, right?
Yes, absolutely. It's proven neurologically that 95% of the time our subconscious mind is the one that's running the show. 95% of the time. Only 5% of the time our conscious mind is running the show. So when you're not embodied, when you're not connected to what your body is feeling, all of the subtleties of your emotions, the triggers, the resistance, the joy, the pleasure, the Shakti, the creative life force energy running through your body. When you can't feel those things subtly, you aren't privy to what is actually going on with yourself. You don't know the vibrations, and there's many layers to our vibratory state of being. It's not just like, oh, I feel good right now, because there's a subconscious mind, and there's a lot of things that we have very strong. Humans are really good at denial. I did this to myself for years. We can just be like, I feel fine. But what you deny, you've placed totally out of your awareness. You don't even know it exists. Like, similar to your grief. You just don't know it's there. But it's there. It's vibrating in your space. It's vibrating and it's creating in your reality. So embodiment allows you to be aware of everything that is going on. So you get to stop yourself in the moment, or shift or say, oh, there's some resistance. Fantastic. I'm going to breathe into my body. And what action do I need to take right now? And take that action and maneuver through the very, challenging and sometimes kind of obtuse and vague process of creating a whole new version of ourselves.
Mm-hmm. Yes. That's so true. And once you actually release those stored and filed emotions and energies, and sometimes you don't know that they're there, but once you release them and you let them go, man, does it feel good. It's like so empowering and so enlightening. My energy just feels lighter after going through things.
Yes.
I remember my first breathwork session where I really got deep, and I realized there was within me one of the things that came forth, and this was a while back. It was like, you've been heartbroken pretty much your whole life, Sarita. And I was like, oh my God, what do I do with that? That was something that was in there, but I didn't even realize that until I went into a deep state of breath and connecting with the body and getting more into the subconscious and getting more in. And that's what came forth, of course. And then since then, going through different processes, experiences, of course, this past weekend, going through my medicine journey definitely was another added huge layer of releasing. And I guess what I'm trying to say long-winded is that sometimes we don't know it's there, but yet once it gets released and once we access it, because that's the main thing, is accessing it, bringing it forth and releasing it, it feels really, really good to navigate your space in a different type of energy. And then also it's creates a more simple with ease approach to the version of you that you've already started to create and implement and put into play. And it feels so much more natural. I hope I said that correctly.
Yes. Yes. And I love the word accessing because I work with both men and women. And recently, one of my clients was just like a man. He was like, wow, I can really access my emotions and not just access them, but he can feel what they are. Like, I'm feeling annoyance, I'm feeling grief, I'm feeling sadness. He couldn't do that initially. So, again, when he was trying to create a different reality for himself, he wasn't privy to all of that information. And so now he can say, whoa, okay, I'm feeling abandoned. Where is that abandonment coming from? I can really feel that's coming from my inner child. And then he does inner child work and he's absolutely transformed into that self-empowerment, right? Of like, again, the ability to acknowledge what is really going on here, because we're always creating our reality from our current state of being. We want to know what that is. It's like going to a restaurant and you don't get to order. You're just like privy to whatever shows up. And you're like, wow, I really wasn't feeling this dish tonight, but you like subconsciously ordered it.
That's a really great analogy. Yes, so true. So true. I love that. I love that. Yeah, accessing those deeper parts of you has been an amazing part of the journey. And also, too, I just want to highlight with all the things that we're sharing, with all the wisdom that Alara is sharing with us, is the thing that we sometimes forget, because I forget it. And then it's after the fact that I'm like, oh man, super grateful for that. So grateful for the process, being able to go through a process like that. Because unfortunately, not everybody in this life form, in this time frame, maybe in another life, maybe in another field, but not everybody gets the privilege or ability to access and be able to go through such an amazing process of like healing and transformation and embodiment and all the things. So the fact you're listening to this or watching this is just a almost a reminder to you that like this is very privileged work, and it's a beautiful and amazing work that's so supportive, and that not everybody gets to be able to go through something this profound.
Yeah, absolutely. And I love that you bring that up. What I've experienced is, as I go through these processes initially, the truth is I felt like I didn't want to feel these things, right? Like one of the big things that I had to work through was my own belief of inadequacy, unworthiness. It's one of my gene keys. So it's a lifelong process for me of understanding deeper layers of inadequacy. And when I would tap into that feeling, like it didn't feel good, inadequacy doesn't feel good. So part of you is like, I don't want to feel that. I don't want to believe that. I don't want to feel that. But as you work through the process of accepting and loving the part of yourself that feels that way, I always experience so much deep, deep gratitude towards that part of myself for all that it has taught me, all of the experiences that it has brought forth into my life. I don't know if you experience that, Sarita, but to me, it's like as soon as I start accepting that version of myself and loving myself, oh my heart just explodes with profound, profound gratitude.
Yes, definitely. It definitely opens you up so much more. And just like you were saying, how when people that you've worked with that have been resistant, but then started to open up, and it was like all these like downloads and opportunities started to come, you do become magnetic. And that's the beauty of going through the work like this. That's like the icing on the cake. Like that's the icing on the cake for me, is like, wow, not only do I feel better, but like I'm a fucking magnet to some amazing stuff that's just coming my way. So I love that. Alara, thank you so much for all the juicy topics we covered in such a short amount of time. We covered like so much, and I love that. I love your work. If you want to get in touch with Alara, make sure to check out the show notes. I'll have that down below. Alara, do you have anything in particular, final thoughts, wisdoms that you want to share with our audience? Anything that's coming up? Any offerings that you wanted to share with the people that are listening?
Yeah, I have a wonderful masterclass called Quantum Wealth Creation that I would love to share with them. Outside of the teachings, it has a very, very high vibration. It just really feels good. So you can learn from it, but you can also just be lit by it.
Amazing. I'll have all that information below. Thank you again, Alara. It was amazing. The time passed like so quick. Like it's not fair. It passed so quickly. And I love that when I have some amazing conversations with some amazing, amazing people. But thank you so much, Alara, for your time. And thank you again, everybody, for being here. We'll see you in the next episode. Take care of yourself. And as always, keep being the amazing you that you are. Take care. Hey, love. Thank you so much for tuning in to today's episode. If you adored what you heard, it would mean the world to me if you took a moment to leave a review on the platform you are listening to this episode on. By doing this, you are helping my mission to impact other women with their healing journeys. If you aren't already following me on social media, make sure to connect with me at Sarita Wellness to get your weekly dose of inspiration. I can't wait to be with you in the next episode, but in the meantime, keep being the amazing you that you are.